So in this video, we will try to add different raster layers to our OpenLayers application. So one of the most important raster layer that we add in almost all OpenLayers application is a base map. So if I look into my application right now, whatever image that you are seeing on the map is known as base map. There are different base maps provider available. Some of them are free, some of them are paid, and OpenStreetMap is one of the open source examples. So it is completely free to use OpenStreetMaps. Similar to OpenStreetMap, there is one more what I can say library that you can use as your base map, which is more like a visualization purpose. So if your purpose is to show information about some places, I would highly recommend you to use OpenStreetMap. But if you want to create just a visualization of a map and put some data on top of it, and you don't care much about the ground features, then you can use Stamen maps. So Stamen maps are really awesome and interactive or fun way to show your data. So they have different base maps such as toner, terrain, watercolor, the burning map, trees, cabs and crime, Mars, and we'll try to see how to use it. So this is a toner. So it looks like this is completely made out of two colors, black and white. So if I try to zoom in, I will get more features, and this looks nice if you have something related to architecture or something like that, doesn't it? Then we have a terrain map. So I think it holds information about the elevation data, and then you can easily see all the mountains. The next one we have is a watercolor. So yeah, this is clearly example of a fun way to show your maps. Then we have a burning map. This is a little bit scary, and I don't think I will be using it. This is a tree, cabs and crime. I'm not sure what kind of information does it hold, but it looks like there are a lot of dots here. And then we have a Mars. So it looks like we can show 3D information in a actual 3D way or something like that. Alright, so these are some of the Stamen maps that we can use. Now let's try to add the watercolor map to our web application instead of using OSM. So we will define a watercolor map, define Stamen watercolor. So first, before writing the code, I would like to show you how to find information regarding Stamen and how to use it in OpenLayers examples or OpenLayers API documentation. So my first preference is always examples because we can directly see the code and copy paste it. So let's see if they have something related to Stamen. And there we go, they have example that shows how to add a Stamen tile, and they're using watercolor too as well. Isn't it great? So it looks like we need to create something like this, right? We can also go into API documentation and search for Stamen. So Stamen is basically a source, right? So if you remember the concept of layer, we have a box as a layer, and inside that we put packets such as source or styling or other options. So it looks like when we are using Stamen, it will act as a source, and then you can mention the layer. So for now we have the layer as watercolor. It can be terrain or it can be toner or anything like that. And then minimum and maximum zoom, then the opacity, then the URL and wrapx. So I think the important one is, and the required one is only layer name. So we'll start with that. So as you can see here, they have defined a new source called stamen with the layer name as watercolor, and this is acting as a tile layer. So somewhat it is similar to our OSM layer because it was also a tile layer, but the source was .osm. Here the source is .stamen. So I hope you get the difference now, right? So I will declare a new variable called water stamen, and again new ol dot layer dot tile, and inside it we will declare our source new ol dot source dot stamen. So let me first confirm if s is small or capital letters. Yeah, it's capital letters. Stamen, and inside it I will declare layer as watercolor. Alright, now I have defined my layer. Now I will simply put it in my layer array. I don't want OSM right now, I just want stamen. Alright, so I will save this and go back to our map, and now you can see that we are consuming a base map from stamen. Right, we can also quickly change it to toner, and there we go, we have a toner base map. Great, right? We can also use some other source such as Mapbox. So if I go to mapbox.com, so if you are new to Mapbox, I would highly recommend you to create an account, because creating an account on Mapbox is completely free. Alright, so I can just sign in, and then I'm just signing in. So once you have signed in, you will have your own key and token information inside tokens and everything that you can use in your application. Okay, so we can use open layers with Mapbox as well, but we will discover it more in our Mapbox tutorials, not here. So this is how you will add base maps, or you will change the base maps of open layers. We generally consume OSM because it also contains information and visualization. So we will be using that for our further procedure. We can also add static images to our map. Images that doesn't hold information about coordinates or anything. There are usually two ways to do that. One is where we define the coordinates ourselves and then we add those image to that specific coordinates, or one where we define the extent and then let our image cover all that extent. So we will cover both of these types in this example, right? So first one is where we will add an image as a static image. So in order to add that, we will first download an image. So I have downloaded this image. If you used Snapchat, then you will understand that this is a bitmoji, and what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a map similar to Snapchat. So what I want is I want to add this bitmoji or this image to my map. All right, so we'll try to add this image in two different forms. So first we'll discuss a static image covering the given extent. Alright, so before coding, let's see what our API documentation tells us about static image. Okay, so if I look into different layer types, I will find a layer type called image, and inside this I can find a static image as well. So if I look for the source ol dot source dot static image, or image static, to be more precise, image static. You can see that the attributes or the options that we want to put when we are declaring a image static source are following. So I have to provide URL, I have to provide image size, projection, logo, image extent, cross origin, attribute, etc. Alright, and this will act as a OL source image, so it extends to OL source image. So now we will first declare our source. So image source is equal to new ol dot source dot image static, and now I will add attributes such as attribution. Attribution is HTML code that you add, which you normally see here. So this is an attribute. So if I want, I can add attribute to my image such as Snapchat Bitmoji. Alright, and now I will pass the URL. So here we can see that my main.js and my png is in the same directory. So I can directly write aa.png, and in the end I would like to give image extent. So you can give image extent according to your own need. So I can, in order to get image extent, we can go to the area that we want. So basically image extent means the current image or current map that you are seeing. So in order to get that extent, you can go to console again and search for map.getView and then calculate extent. Alright, so extent is always an array of 4 values. Alright, so I can simply copy this and I can put it here, and that's all. So my image source is defined. So image source. Now the next one is image layer. So please notice that this is how we will work in the future videos. So whenever we are defining layer, we will define a separate variable known as source, and then we will add that source to our layer. So var image layer is equal to new ol dot layer dot image, having the source as image source. Alright, I hope this is clear. And once we have declared the source, now we will add this layer to our map. Adding layer to map. So until now what we were doing is we were declaring a layer array, and then we were passing this layer array here in the our maps function. Alright, but what if I want to add this layer after my map is defined? So there is a way to do that, and we can do it using map dot add layer, and then we can pass this image layer into it. Alright, now let's get back to code and see if we get the image. There we go. You can see that we got the image, and it looks quite bigger, but that is because we passed the extent in that way. So now what if I change this extent to something like map dot get view dot calculate extent? Can you guess what will be the output? So what we are doing here is we are getting the extent of the map, and then we are putting it here. So if I save it, you will see that when I refreshed, my complete maps extent was given to this bitmoji. Alright, I hope this was clear to you how to add a static image. So you can add these static images as your point of attractions, because your point of attractions will not going to change. So you can add static images to them. So for example, it looks like we have a wildlife sanctuary here. So what I can do is I can just simply look for a tiger PNG and maybe animated one, because I don't want to scare people. Animated PNG, and yeah, this looks cute. Alright, so I can simply save this image into my the same folder. So we are in courses, web development, open layers, raster layers, raster layer, and we can save it as tiger. And then I can again go back to my program and find the extent of this area, because I don't want my tiger to spread out completely, but it will be nice to have a little image in this. So maybe this extent is okay. So I will simply do map dot get view dot calculate extent, and this will give me an extent. So I'll just simply first copy this extent. Alright, I'll get back to my code and I'll paste it for now, and then I will declare a new image source for tiger, and I can simply copy this and change information in it. Notice that if I use the same image source, I can if I want to, because this is already done. So we have already added this, but this will not be a good practice. So what we'll do is we'll simply change it to tiger source and change this to tiger.png, and here again we can write tiger. Alright, and now we want to pass these extents here, correct? Now once we have passed the extent, we will again declare a layer, tiger layer. So var tiger layer is equal to this, and make sure that this is not an image source, otherwise you will add the pretty girl into the wildlife sanctuary, but you want to add tiger. Alright, and in the end we will add this layer to the map. So we can do map dot add layer and this tiger layer. So now let's get back to code and see, do we have tiger? There we go, we have a tiger and it's sitting in a wildlife sanctuary. So this method is really helpful to add static image. There is another way we can add image and give it a coordinates. So now let's discuss that as well. So maybe I will just uncomment this, or maybe I'll just comment this. We don't want tigers on our map right now. So another method is adding image based on coordinates. Alright, so this can be helpful when you have bunch of coordinates, and instead of having a normal marker, you want to add certain image or something like that. So let's first understand the methodology and then we will start coding. So here again, of course, we will have to declare a layer, right? That means we'll have to declare a source, and inside source we'll have to declare a feature. Now this is something new. So what we will do is we'll create a feature based on coordinates, and then we will assign a image to that feature as a style. All right, and then that will be a feature that we will add in a source, and that we will add in a layer. All right, so we'll be doing bunch of things. So we'll add a layer, then we'll add a source, then we'll add a feature, and feature will be made up of the coordinates and image. All right, so the best way to get started is to go from right to left. That means first define coordinates and styles, then define feature, then define source, then define layer. All right, so first of all we'll get started with defining a feature. So let's say what our API docs tells us about ol.feature. So there we go. So this is how we can define a feature. So it looks like here we have a var feature as a new OL feature and a point as new OL geom.point. So I think this is something that we want, right? Because we have a coordinate array and then we want to pass that array to the point and use that point. All right. So let's get started with defining a feature. So var feature is equal to new OL dot features or a feature. Inside this we want to define geometry as new OL dot geom dot point, where we pass the array of coordinates. So let's find, now let's try to add this tiger in a different way. So instead of having an extent, we can add it using coordinates. So first of all I will remove this, and it looks like if I just comment this for now and save it, my tiger will be removed. And maybe we can also remove the girl. So I can do something like this. And now let's get back to our wildlife sanctuary and try to add tiger at this location. All right, so how to get a center? Map dot get view dot get center, correct? So this will act as a array for our geometry. So I will uncomment this quickly and I will add this array to my point. Alright, so now we have defined our geometry. We can also define some other attributes to it, but for now we will just skip it. So now our feature is created. Now the next thing is we want to set its style. So we can either set the style here or define another variable for style. So style is equal to new ol dot style dot style, and inside this style we want to have an icon. So let's get back to our API doc and see how to have ol dot style dot icon. So it looks like we can add an icon as an image which will have couple of things to it such as scale, opacity, image URL, etc. So let's get started. We can also add attributes such as anchor. So anchor means what should be the center of your image. So if I have given my, let's say the center of my geometry as 0 0, I don't want my image to have a center at 0 0. It will be a center at 0 0.5 comma 0 0.5. All right, and similarly the anchor x unit and anchor y unit is a unit that we specify which indicates what is the value of the of our image in x and y direction. So is it fraction or is it pixel, like that. So for now we will keep them as default. So The important thing that we need to add is src, because that will be the source of our image. And so now let's get started. So image will be equal to new ol dot style dot icon, and inside that we'll first try to add src as, now let's try to add tiger dot png. All right, so it will depend upon what is the image size of tiger, how it will look on the map. It can look extremely small, or it can look extremely big. So we will first test it, and then we will define what scale do we want. Correct. So we'll leave it for now. Now in order to set this style to this feature, one way to do it is define style first, and then have something like style is equal to style, right? And here again we will change it to this. So one way to do it is like this, correct, but I will show you another way to do it. So you can also do something similar to feature dot set style, and then pass this variable. Alright, cool. Now our feature is defined. Now we will add this feature to a source. Declare define a source. So this will be a vector layer, right? Because we have geometry, we have the style and everything. So it looks like this is a vector layer. So var vector source is equal to ol new ol dot source dot vector, and our feature here will be this feature. So I believe the word is features, and here it will be this feature. Alright, so I believe when we are passing features, it is an array. Let's go back to our API doc and confirm it. So if I want to declare ol source vector, so features is an array. Alright, so that's correct, we have to define it as an array. And now we will add this source to a layer. So define a layer, and that will be var vector layer is equal to new ol dot layer dot vector, where source is vector source. Alright, and finally we will add this layer to map using map dot add layer vector layer. Alright, let's first see the results, and then we will come back to the code again. So it looks like our tiger is there, but it's quite big. So we can define the scale of, let's say, 0.1. We'll save it. I forgot the comma here. We will save it. Yeah, now it looks more of the correct size. Maybe, yeah, we can also have 0.05, and it will be, yeah, now it looks great, right? So have you noticed the difference? Now even though I can try to zoom out my map, I will still see the image in the same size, right? So we can also prevent this behavior, but for now let's carry on with this one. All right, so now let's get back to code and understand what we did here. So first of all, we declared a feature with the point geometry as a geometry, where we passed the coordinates that we were interested in. Alright, next we defined a style that will use the style type image, and we defined image source and scale to it. Then we added these styles that we have created to the feature, and then we added that feature as an array to our vector source, and then we added that source to our layer, and finally we added our layer to our map. So it looks like a tedious job to add just one tiger on the map, but believe me, this is the most sophisticated and most easiest way to add information on the map. The next type of raster layer that we will add on map is referred to a WMS service. So if you are familiar with WMS, it is a web mapping service. That means we will access these images from URL, generally a geo server or something like that, and then we will create a layer out of that. In order to understand more about it, I will show you a WMS link from my localhost geo server. Don't worry, we will get into geo server later, so you can just, if you don't understand this part, it's okay, no worries. When I'm clicking on this, you can see that I'm getting some data on the map, right? So this is an image, and this is a WMS layer URL. So we can copy this URL and we can use it with our OpenLayers application to add this image on the map. So now let's go to our code and see how we can do that. So adding WMS layer to the map. So there are two ways we can add WMS layer to map. First is tile and second is image. Now we will understand what is tile and what is image and what is difference between both of them using this simple presentation. So to understand the concept of image layer and tile layer, consider this example. So consider that we want to load this yellow square as an image on our map. So when we treat it as image layer and consider that this information or this image is coming from a server, alright. So in image layer, when you start your website at 0th second, your website or your map didn't had that yellow square, and let's consider it took 4 seconds to get the information about that image and then show it on the map. So it means that between this 0th second time and between this 4th second time, your map was blank, and after 4 seconds suddenly a yellow box appeared on your screen. So in order to keep your users engaged all the time, so that they don't get bored and move away from your website, a concept of tile layer is introduced, in which we divide our final image into small tiles, all right, and then we load each smaller tiles as the time passes. So if you use it as a tile image, you can see at 0th second website was blank, at first second the quarter part of the image was downloaded, at another second remaining quarter part was downloaded, at the third second 3/4 of image was downloaded, and at the end of the fourth second the complete image was downloaded. So did you notice the difference between both of the ways to add image? In image adding, we had 0 second where the screen was complete blank, and by the end of the time we saw the complete image all at once. But in tile image, we saw progressive addition of tiles to our map. So both of them are important in terms of adding WMS data to your map, but it depends upon the use case how you want to do it. Okay, now that you know the difference between tile and image, let's try to create the WMS layer as a tile, and then we will try to create the same image as same URL as a image. All right. So first define define WMS source. So we'll do var tile source is equal to new ol dot source dot tile WMS. Alright, let's get back to API documentation and read more about it. So I will go to documentation again, OL open layers, API docs, and I will search for OL dot source dot tile WMS. So again, there are bunch of options that we have in tile WMS, but we will be using mostly the required ones such as URL, then parameters. So params, which means we have to give layers param, a couple of layers param, style can be empty, version and layer name, etc. We can also give cross origin, and we can also give server type. So for us, the server type will be GeoServer. Alright, so now let's get back to our code and try to create this source. So the first and very important one is the URL. So the URL here will be a URL from the beginning until this WMS word. So this is my URL. Then I will define some params which will include, these params will include layers. So the layers here is tiger. Don't worry, when we learn more about GeoServer, I will explain you everything again. So the layer name will be tiger colon poly landmarks. Alright, and I want tiled to be true. So tiled is equal to true. I hope you remember what is tile. Alright, and then we will give params such as server type as GeoServer and cross origin as anonymous. Let's check what else can we do. So cross origin, you must provide cross origin values if you are using a WebGL renderer, which we are. So it will be anonymous. Alright, we have defined our tile source. Now it's time to define a tile layer. Define tile layer. So var tile layer is equal to, it will be a tile layer again because we have defined a source as tile WMS. So it will be new ol dot layer dot tile, and inside it we will have our source as tile source, right? And now we will add this layer to our map. So adding layer to map. So we'll do map dot add layer as this tile layer. Alright, I think we have all the information that we need. Now let's get back to Chrome and see if we can see this map. So I believe it was in New York. So let's get back to New York. So there we go. You can see that I now have my layer, and this is a tile layer because if I zoom out, and just to show you, if I zoom in quickly, you can see that it is loading one tile at a time as we saw in the presentation. Hence we can confirm that it is a tile layer. The another way to add everything as a image layer is similar to tile WMS, but instead of tile we just need to write image source is equal to new ol dot source dot image WMS, and we'll pass the same parameters again. So URL I can simply copy from here, params I can simply add like layers is tiger colon poly landmarks, and we cannot provide this tiled property here because it is not a tile layer anymore, and server type and cross origin will be same, so I can just copy paste them. And now I will declare a layer as var image layer. It will be ol new ol dot layer dot image and source as image source. And finally we will add this to the map dot add layer image layer, and for now we will just simply remove this tile layer and add this image layer. So again, if I go to New York, you can see that my data is there, and now it is working as a image, so you can see that it is loading completely at one go. So this is loading of tile layer and image layer. So I hope the concept of raster data or adding raster data to maps is clear to you. So we discovered how to add base maps such as Stamen. We also discovered how to add image layers or plain image to our map, either using extent or using geometry or coordinates. And we also discovered how to add a tile layer and image layer. So I guess these are all the important types that we have in WMS. Thank you.